The Smoking Glass Hour believes in giving back and giving credit where credit is due. Our number one goal is to make a difference. The music you hear on the Smoking Glass Hour comes from Purple Planet Music. They can be found at www.purple-planet.com. Go check them out.
We can be most effective when we are engaged in the political process, and there's no time like the present. One of our main goals is effective advocacy through active participation from you. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Our efforts to keep you engaged and informed as to the importance of current events happening locally and abroad started 2 years ago. Our number one goal is to make a difference. We need you. Join us at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on Thursday night, February the 25th of 2016. It is actually the last Thursday night in what we call Black History Month. And we know for the most part, this month we have not dedicated any of our segment of shows to Black history, but we have flooded social media with Black history excerpts from different individuals, different pioneers, and so forth and so on. But we know that we're no longer living in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even 2000. We are actually living in 2016 and experiencing some of the same things that were experienced back in the 1960s. So here we are. We are challenged with new leaders. We are challenged with new people stepping up to the plate. And guess what? Tonight, our guests will hail from Baltimore, Maryland, and Dallas, Longview, Texas, somewhere in that area. Our guest tonight will be Mr. Corey Jackson and Mr. Aaron Hopkins. But before I even bring those guys in, let me just tell you, if you are out there listening right now, you can catch us on TuneIn. You can catch us on iTunes Radio. You can catch us also on Spreaker.com, Blog Talk Radio, and YouTube. And all you have to do is search for the Smoking Glass Hour. You can also catch us live video on Blab and our Periscope. So my point is this, is that the message you will hear tonight will be broadcast all over the globe. We're not trying to be Tavis Smiley. We're not trying to be Tom Joyner. We're not trying to be Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, or nobody else. All we are trying to be is drum majors for justice. So here we are. The Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, our number one goal is to make a difference. Tonight's title will be The State of America for its black citizens, our conversation, our viewpoint, and our solution. The talking points will be the political climate, the workplace, society, and our place in it. So tonight, I want to welcome Mr. Corey Jackson and Mr. Aaron Hopkins. Mr. Jackson and Mr. Hopkins, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good evening. Good evening, Baron. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come on the Smoking Glass Hour tonight. It's an honor to be on with you and our brother Aaron Hopkins, and I'm just thrilled to have this conversation, our conversation.
Well, I'll tell you, Corey, I have given Aaron Hopkins the name A-Hop, and he knows what it means, and he knows where I'm coming from. Aaron, tell us just a little bit about what tonight's topic is going to be about, and I'll yield back to Corey, and then we're going to get directly to, because we got about 55 minutes right now, and we're going to go pure, hardcore, true facts according to from where we sit and from what we see, and we're not making any apologies about anything that we're saying. If we offend someone, then it's not from being intentional or anything like that, but we must tell the truth. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend. You listen to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, joined tonight by Aaron Hopkins and Mr. Corey Jackson. Aaron Hopkins, it's in your hand.
Thank you, Baron. I actually, really, to be truthful, I really want to yield it back to Corey, but I will say, in terms of the topic, Corey actually was desirous of this conversation, and of course I feel like I would definitely have to be included as well as yourself. And you stated the topic and the points that we would like to cover. So basically, Corey and I became friends through you on your show, and had not physically met until this past October in Washington, D.C., where the convening for the 20-year anniversary for the Million Man March, which was titled 10-10-15, Justice or Else. Mm-hmm. And in stating that, this wonderful gentleman and myself were able to fellowship and learn, in an atmosphere that I think many probably had a totally different outcome or outlook of what we were there for and what we were there to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So most of the time when people think of things where it may seem they're excluded in terms of an invitation, this was not the case. The bottom line for what we attended that march for was justice, and we don't have to really. We could spend the entire show pointing out areas where we all know and have to admit that justice is not something that is readily available, particularly when we're talking about those of us that live in the black community. Mm-hmm. Not to say that there's not justice in the Hispanic or Latino community, not to say that there's not justice in the Native American community or even the poor white community. Uh-huh. But I think what we are attempting tonight to do is specifically talk about what it means for us as black men and especially black citizens in this country as we attempt to go into another year. And, politically speaking, there's many things on the table that people are attempting to address, more so from my vantage point because it's a convenient time to do so, uh-huh. Not necessarily that it's going to be a conclusion or the desired outcome from that. Okay. I want to yield over to Corey and let Corey give his stance because, like I said, it was really Corey's idea that we're on the show tonight. And of course, I welcome the fact that you gave us the platform to be on, and again, I thank you for that, and I hope people are listening with an open mind because I can tell you, Corey and I spoke earlier, and there's
Right.
things that have to be brought out and that are going to be brought out.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, Aaron, before we go to Corey, my platform has always been our platform, and it will continue to be our platform because we know that mainstream media's number one goal is to distort the message and divide the people. Our message is very clear. We're trying to unite people, even though it's hard to unite because there are some things that have gone on in this particular country and we have not addressed. Yes, Corey Jackson and I talked last week. And Corey, much respect to you, young brother. Corey, tell us how you were able to allow these particular topics tonight that we're going to talk about evolve in your head, and we're going to go directly into the heart of the conversation. Talk to us, Corey Jackson, I believe once again from Baltimore, Maryland. Corey, I know at one time you were in that area. If you've moved, let me know and let the audience know. But Baltimore, Maryland, correct?
Yeah, just south of Baltimore.
Okay.
So right outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay. Go ahead, Jack.
Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland. But once again, just glad to be on tonight with you brothers. And like we've all said tonight, we've coined it, our conversation, our viewpoint. This is an opportunity for us to be in the driver's seat and bring these topics to light from our viewpoint, from our spectrum. So back in October, during the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, the Justice or Else rally, Aaron and myself had an opportunity to fellowship that entire day. I think we might have met at 5 that morning. Partook in the day. It was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day of unity, of brotherhood, and not just brotherhood within the black community, but, Aaron, if you remember, there was all shapes, sizes, and colors of the rainbow.
That's right.
There.
That's right.
Fellowship in that day. So that day, we were driving the conversation, and we were the majority of the invite. However, everyone was invited, and it was definitely recognized within the demographics of the event. The brotherhood that was shared that day was phenomenal. There were 2 other brothers there, so it was a total of 4 of us that we spent the better part of the day together. And the brotherhood between us, the spirit, that's what I'm talking about, the spirit in the air was that of unity, and unity for all. And it was something that has stayed with me ever since that event. It was a bonding of brotherhood for Aaron and myself that has made us closer. We share a lot of the same viewpoints. We've shared a lot of the same life experiences. And which brings us to this conversation of the state of America as it pertains to black. And so, I ask you to listen with an open mind and open heart and consider a spectrum that may not be yours tonight. Because tonight we're going to look at the perspective from the African American, and particularly the African American male. We've not been in the driver's seat. We've not driven the conversation. But tonight we're going to start. So with that being said, I'd like to open up and talk about the current political scene and what we can glean as black Americans from what we're seeing. Both from the Republican side and the Democratic side. So let's start with the Democrats because, from the Republican standpoint, that's pretty much a clown show. We know where those guys stand. They're unapologetic about that. There's no smoke screen doubt. We know what those candidates are about. Let's talk about the 2 Democratic nominees.
Come on.
Excuse me. The 2 Democratic candidates, if you will, battling right now, currently, for the black vote. And when I say battling, I think we absolutely know. If you turned on any of the news stations, especially what I would call the liberal news stations, you'll see that right now Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are in an all-out war for the black vote. my stance on this is, let's not be swayed by any candidate.
Mm-hmm.
But let's certainly not be swayed by Hillary Clinton. Because what I'm seeing right now on her platform is she has the black vote locked up just because of the reputation that the Clintons have within the black community. And if, us as black people, us as a race, we are the most forgiving of all races. We're very forgiving. So much so that it's detrimental to our success. And I say that because let's go back to Charleston, South Carolina, to the Charleston shootings. If you remember, as the family members of the victims were interviewed on national television, the first words that came, the first sentiment that came out of their mouths was forgiveness. Now, I may be considered radical in some sense, for lack of a better word. I don't like to use that word radical because it has a negative connotation on it.
Uh-huh.
What I would say is I'm truthful. I speak the truth and nothing but the truth. And sometimes it's the cold-hearted truth. A lot of people don't want to hear the truth. But getting back to what I was saying about the victims of Charleston, South Carolina survivors, they offered up forgiveness. They offered up forgiveness before the bodies were even cold. And to me, we've forgiven enough. We have forgiven enough. We've forgiven the atrocities that have been committed upon us for the past 400 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
When do we get retribution? When do we get retribution?
Mm-hmm.
When do we have to stop forgiving? And I come unapologetically tonight, because what needs to be said is the truth, and you cannot be apologetic about the truth. So when I say, when do we not have to be so forgiving, it's not in a negative standpoint. It's not in a retaliatory standpoint. It's the truth of the matter, because forgiveness has not done anything positive for us. And so getting back to the candidate, Senator Clinton to be, or Secretary Clinton to be exact, she feels that she has this black vote all locked up, signed, sealed, delivered.
So Corey,
But it's black.
not meaning to interrupt you, but let me make sure that everybody understands what you're saying. Are you saying that for too long or for too many years, the Democratic Party, inclusive of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, they have assumed that the black vote is automatically going to them, therefore they do not have to earn that vote, and what you're saying is something totally different? I'll let you go from there.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that this black vote is signed, sealed, delivered to them. And what I'm saying to us as blacks is, don't give that vote away so easily. Let's not be lulled to sleep by the Clintons or any political candidate. Because right now, as it stands, Hillary Clinton, in my viewpoint, is very close to an enemy of blacks.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember in the early 90s, there's footage of her referring to black young teens as super predators. You all remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And not only as super predators, but that they needed to be healed like a dog, subdued into submission.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the same woman that's campaigning in South Carolina right now with the mothers of slain black men, saying that Black Lives Matter to her.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying to us on the line tonight is, don't give your vote away so easy.
So Corey,
Yes.
Are you saying that based on what you've seen and the research that you have been able to acquire, you feel that Hillary is more or less a Benedict Arnold or a charlatan?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, go ahead.
And I don't want our vote to be given so blindly.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to wake up and smell the coffee, if you will,
mm-hmm.
and realize and really vet who these candidates are. And what I'm saying about Hillary Clinton isn't an automatic vote for Bernie, because I think Bernie needs to be vetted,
mm-hmm.
and his stances taken into consideration
mm-hmm.
with a microscope just as well.
Right.
What I want us to do as a people is to be more vigilant in how we vet candidates.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to comb them over with a fine-tooth comb, to look at them through a very fine, strong microscope.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, what I would hate to happen is our vote to be cast for an individual, that individual wins the candidacy to the White House, and we be forgotten about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Corey, let me switch it over to Aaron. Aaron, since we're talking about the political climate, I know that you and Corey both personally have talked directly and specifically on your Facebook page in conjunction with me and several others. So, Aaron, from your standpoint, tell us what you see and from where you're sitting about the political climate as it relates to what Corey said, in addition to what needs to be said.
Absolutely. To back up what Corey just stated and to give some statistical data that absolutely proves what he just stated, I'm gonna read something, and then I'm gonna get into the other side of the fence, which was the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
This was a poll done by the former owner of BET, and I'm sure we remember this gentleman, Robert L. Johnson. He now has a company that deals with national news and some actual political polling information. This is let me just read it as it stands. The RLJ companies today announced the results of a nationwide African American survey conducted by Zogby Analytics. 1,000 randomly selected African American adults nationwide were polled by telephone and online survey. The survey reveals current African American sentiment on a range of issues that include the 2016 presidential election, opinions about national and current affairs, the Obama presidency, its relation associations. Now, this is where it gets to the meat of it. 87% of African Americans surveyed and registered to vote, and 69% of them believe they will definitely vote in November. Hillary Clinton dominates the race among Democrats with 64% of African American voters who will vote for her, and 20% of responders chose Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So, what Corey just said, basically, this poll proves the very fact that for reasons to me that seem very petty, but these are very real in terms of the leverage that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has in us actually just giving our loyalty and our vote for her because of the history and track record of former President Bill Clinton.
So Aaron, while you're there, which brings me to this point, and it validates what Corey said, I think you'll expound on. So since we know this information, we know that candidates know this information more so than us because they pay to have this information. Is that one of the specific reasons as to how the black community can continue to be used and abused based on their vote, which means nothing other than on election day?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, and I'm glad you took it in that direction, Barry. Let me give you a clearer picture of what I mean. As recently as this past Saturday night, there's an event that takes place annually called the Stellar Awards, which is a gospel-oriented awards show, similar to what the Grammys would be for regular music, popular music, various genres, country and western, etc. Secretary Clinton made a surprise, some want to call a pop-up appearance at the Stellar Awards. Mm-hmm. Now, all of us on this line know, understand, that was not a ordinary showing of support for the Stellar Awards.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? This is an absolute attempt to show in the public eye that I deem your vote in the black community very important. Therefore, I will appear at something that you deem important, which is your gospel award ceremony. Now, I think all of us are adults and have enough common sense to understand what she's saying without saying it. Again, here it is, a poll taken basically says now, and we are not that far into, I'm going to say we're about middle way of the actual nomination of the candidates on both major parties. But here it is. This poll was taken quite some time ago, and we're just now getting the results here at the second week, in the second week of February. And it says, let me break it down this way, what it means for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, at this point, based on what he would have to do to capture the black vote, which already appears that, like Corey said, that black people have already determined, for the most part, that they would, the ones that are registered to vote, would automatically almost just cast their vote for Hillary Clinton. Now, the question that we have to ask ourselves as thinking, intelligent people, where is the proof that she has done what she needs to do,
come on, Aaron,
as any other candidate would have to do to earn that vote? I think that's a simple question that anybody in their right mind would want to ask. So if she cannot show that she's done that necessary background work to earn the vote, then we know that there's some loyalty there that we are willing, before she even asked in the right fashion for that vote. And you all tell me what, if you were in her shoes, would you do something in terms of really showing that you appreciate the vote, that you don't have to do that much work for? Because we're talking about people giving loyalty without even having been presented an agenda on what to expect after the vote. It's after the vote that we're really saying we cannot continue to just give a person, because we're traditionally, we just have to say it like it is, we're traditionally, as black people, Democrats. But if we look at the history of what the Democratic Party has done in terms of not just intentions, because intentions, the road to hell are paved with good intentions. What we're talking about is, when are we going to see the results of this loyalty that, however she attained it, it's real and it's present. We know what President Bill Clinton before her, we know how we in the black community viewed him. I never was one of those people that said, because I think it's rather silly. It's really not, it's not a beneficial term, so to speak, for President Clinton. But we labeled this guy as the first black president. Right. Some of that was jokingly, but some of it was actually how people felt. So that gives license to this loyalty that people are ready to run to the polls and cast their vote for Hillary Clinton. But if we look at the policy, then we have to ask ourselves a question.
So
I think that's what.
So Hop, let me ask you this, and Jack, you can come in on this as well. So if we have all of these established African American, John Lewis, and all these other people that are out there saying that Hillary is the person. Hillary is the one. She is the one that has been there for civil rights. She is the one that has been there on the front lines fighting. When we know back in the 90s, her husband implemented what we now know as the industrialized prison system of this particular country. So how do the younger generation, the millennials, how do they offset or deflect that myth that our vote should be guaranteed, a guaranteed fit for Hillary Clinton?
They need to have more discretion.
Absolutely, Corey. I want to let you tackle that because I have a totally I'm going to say biased opinion about that. I'm going to let you tackle that.
But I want to make sure that you give your input regardless as to what side it's on, because what we're trying to do tonight is establish a common line of communication. Just because it appears that she's been there, we need to fact check, we need to vet every candidate that's out there, because if we continue to be taken for granted, if you keep doing what you've always done, you know the end results.
That's right. Same. Well, you hear me often say this, Baron, not that I'm totally exclusive or excluded from it, because emotions play a vital role in anything that is of importance. And I think another reason why, and I know this for a fact, and Corey will validate this, one of the things that makes the climate like this very dangerous is when people continue to ask the same questions, and in life, and it's almost like you make light of the question until the closer it gets to the day where you need that vote. Now all of a sudden that question becomes more important.
Mm-hmm.
So what people really want to start seeing, and I'm kind of generalizing now, but when we're talking about politics, and we're talking about in the face of this last year, 2015, where social media gave a platform that like we had never seen before, where video evidence of crime committed by people in positions of authority, whether they were police, whether they were elected officials, where they had been found doing something, an offense of the law. And the same excuse, even after there's that kind of evidence that incriminates the person, there's still this disproportionate way that the law is executed. So if I'm the poor person who's lost their son or their daughter at the hands of a policeman's gun, whether he was in the line of duty or not, we have also seen on the opposite side of that, where what Corey started out by talking with, the murder of 9 individuals inside of a black Baptist church in South Carolina, that offender treated as if he had simply just went in and tried to rob somebody, not even with a deadly weapon. So I think what we have to really start looking at is the emotions and the anger and the continued disappointment of us in our community, specifically the black community, being given promises and hopes that continue to be unfulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, why it is important, not necessarily, it's important for us to reflect and state to Secretary Clinton, you have to do more than just talk about what your husband did or use your last name as Clinton to justify us casting a vote on your behalf.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I don't think that is anywhere outside of the realm of logic. It's not going to do any harm to her, to answer some questions. And I think we just saw where some members of Black Lives Matter just interrupted one of her town hall meetings, I think 2 or 3 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hear a lot of people say that they don't feel like it's the right platform. They don't feel like it's the right time. Well, when is the right time? When people are being killed and then and these events are being swept under the rug.
Mm-hmm. When is the right time?
Time to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Corey?
Well, like I started to say, the black vote needs more discretion because in the 90s, when Bill Clinton was jamming on the Arsenio Hall show on a saxophone, black men were going to jail at an unprecedented rate for under any presidential candidacy. I mean, as he played the tunes, they were locking him up. And so, once again, those questions, those hard questions, need to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be asked of her, to her, and they need to be answered. And this is another problem I have, and this is with both candidates. South Carolina's coming up. South Carolina's a very big black vote. So you're going to see this heavy campaigning towards the black community leading up to South Carolina. But guess what happens after South Carolina? All that campaigning specifically to the black community, it goes away. So what does that tell you? What does that tell us as black Americans or black citizens of this northern continent, I would say? What does that say? Think about it. Ponder on it. You're only important in the state or states where your vote or your population of your vote is going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
But after that, it goes back to politics as normal.
Mm-hmm.
Politics as usual. Politics that don't include the black race.
Mm-hmm.
Excludes the black race, harms the black race. So, on the total political scene, and we can cross on over to the Republican standpoint of things, like I said, that's not hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
They wear their feelings on their sleeve. We know where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
However, the sheer fact, and we'll talk about Donald Trump here, the sheer fact that Donald Trump is in the lead is an atrocity. However, the fact that Donald Trump is in the lead is an absolute truth
Come on.
of where the United States is as a country.
That's right.
Because right now, him and his foolishness, he is representing what the people are thinking.
Exactly.
That's right.
So when he goes in and he talks about Mexicans, rapists, thieves, murderers, what is that saying?
Mm-hmm.
He's speaking for the better population of the country. And I'm gonna just go ahead and say it because we're talking truth here.
Come on, Corey.
He's talking for the white community.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
This is the viewpoint of the white community. This is what the majority of the white community thinks about people of color. That is why Donald Trump is in the lead, because he is saying outwardly what they are thinking inwardly.
Mm-hmm.
The conversations that go on in their living rooms, Donald Trump is saying in his stop speeches. That's why he's getting the support. He's saying what they can't say, or he's saying what they're afraid to say. And I'll say this. Some, not all, but far too many. Not all white people are bad, but far too many are.
Mm-hmm.
Not all white people are racist, but far too many are.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the majority of the white race was not racist, we would not be having these conversations.
That's right, Corey.
Because it wouldn't be a case.
Mm-hmm.
So some, not all, but far too many. Far too many because it's an issue.
Mm-hmm. So, Corey, my contention, and I said this today with regards to conversation from one of my other good friends, that what we're seeing now has always existed. The president just was able to bring all of this out because it was never intended for somebody outside of the mainstream to be occupying the Oval Office. So as a result of that, if you can't beat a man, then you have to go below the waist, and you go below the waist by demoralizing, trying to degrade, trying to blemish everything about this individual person. And not only this person, the race as a whole. So when we look at this political climate, okay, I have always said, Corey and Aaron, I think you guys have heard me say before, the rappers in the 80s, they told America and C. Dolores Tucker and all these other people that they were not going to tolerate what those in the 60s had to tolerate. Do you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely.
So if they have said that they are not going to agree with that assessment and deal with that type of treatment, it appears to me that at some point in time, lines are drawn in the sand, and people are getting on this side or that side, not necessarily the right side or the wrong side. But see, here's my problem with Donald Trump. Okay, the same thing that I'm saying tonight, C. Jack, Aaron Hopkins, the same thing that you guys are saying, the same thing that Farrakhan, the same thing of Jackson, the same thing as Obama, Sharpton, and anybody else that look like us. If we say it, we're being dividers. But if he says it, we're being united. I have a serious problem with that. You care to elaborate on that?
I'll elaborate on it. We're talking about an age-old fear. And we all know, back in the time of slavery, slaves were prevented from congregating. Why? Because of the fear that we will be planning and plotting an uprising.
Right.
So now, 400 years later, when blacks speak on black issues, when blacks stand up for black issues, when blacks show that we are proud to be black, when blacks speak up and say we have a voice, there are people that cry foul. Because from the banks of the James River,
Come on.
Willie Lynch gave a speech. He gave a speech to prospective and current slave owners. Willie Lynch owned slaves from the Caribbean on. Experienced slave master. So on the banks of the James River, Willie Lynch gave a speech to all new slave owners, teaching them how to indoctrinate their slaves.
Come on, Jack.
So that if you indoctrinate your slaves for 1 year using this technique and these methodologies, you'll never have to do it again, and it'll last for 400 years. And he was absolutely right. It's the greatest indoctrination ever created. And so now, here we are 400 years later, still suffering off of the effects of that hard and fast indoctrination. So as we begin to break the mold and break the chains out of this indoctrination, oh no, y'all not supposed to do that. Y'all not supposed to speak up. Beyonce is not supposed to be on the biggest stage of the year.
Come on, Corey.
Of the Super Bowl and talk about Black Lives Matter, pay homage to the Black Panthers. That's not possible. You can't do that. That's racist. But all the while, hard rock, punk rock, southern rock, country, all those singers and artists of those genres, they can march around on stage with the rebel flag, wave it high, wave it proud, and it's all good. It's okay. Not anymore.
You know what? I have to jump on Corey's coattails for a second. Here's what's very interesting to me when we start talking about, and especially this time of year, and especially where you have a president on their way out of the White House. One of the things that I can remember as far back as I can remember watching the exchange of candidates as they debate over issues that that they deem are important, not always necessarily what the people who will be voting for them are telling them is important to them. So the luxury has been, and I think Corey hit it on the head, when we're talking about Donald Trump, basically what you have is a spokesman for the rich who don't intend to ever have to share their wealth with anybody beneath them in their wealth. So it's not necessarily that Donald Trump even had to really build a platform to say, I think I'm the best candidate for the grand old party. And the grand old party is that party who at one time made America great. So the key words and the code language that you hear that people on his level use, we have our own meaning of what he's saying when he says make America great again. And it's not the kind of great where it is the sharing of the wealth of the black community, the brown, the red, the yellow community. That's not what he's meaning when he says make America great.
Mm-hmm. So, Aaron, when we look at that particular comment, excuse me for interjecting, when we look at that comment, make America great again, my thing is, when has America ever been great when it's excluding or continues to exclude? And see, when people say that, they're looking at it only from the eyes from whence they see it. America hasn't been so great to everybody. So I think. Go ahead, Aaron. It's getting a little mind-boggling, but go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, you're in the right vein, Baron, and Corey just mentioned it. If that statement is being made to those who never intended for the people who they enslaved to be at the position where they are now challenging your authority and your standard of wealth, then that would not be a statement that we would ever have to hear, making America great again. So evidently what's taking place it's taken away from the intentions that Willie Lynch had. So maybe the end of that span of time that he said to his co-slave masters that if you use the technique that I have found to be successful with my slaves, if you employ this will be your result. So could it be that we have arrived at the time now where that time has reached its end, and there's an awakening now of this same slave that everybody was able to benefit from if they employed that technique? Mm-hmm. I mean, we have to look at things in terms of what they really are,
right?
Not what everybody wants it to be.
Right. So when we look at what Trump is saying, what it is that he's doing, how he's expressing himself, it's kind of like a marriage. If a person is beating you before you get married, what makes you going to change after he gets married? So what makes people think Trump is going to change his position, change his initiation, or whatever the case may be, should he become the nominee and go on and ultimately end up being the president? My thing and my problem, once again, is this, is that those who are out there, who are always talking about they want liberty and justice for all, they want fairness and equality for all, and they're supporting somebody who goes totally opposite of what that means. What do you think, Corey Jackson?
Well, for one, I think people that are supporting Donald Trump are naive and caught up in their emotions on what they have been brainwashed into believing what America is. Mm-hmm. Slogan, take America back. The slogan, the South shall rise again. All of these slogans are forms of indoctrination, even for those that believe in them, because the American dream is a farce.
Exactly.
The American dream is not attainable but only for a small faction.
Come on, Jack. You telling the truth, boy.
And so what we have here, we have a faction of people that sits on high and looks down low and says, you know what? We're going to make these people think that these people are the ones that's preventing them from getting to where I am.
Mm-hmm.
But yet still, I'm going to make them believe that through my belief system, they can attain what I have. See, it's all a farce. This whole American dream is not real. It's
right.
not real for black, most certainly. And guess what? It's not real for white.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Guess what? They get pumped up through patriotism.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
Patriotism, if you're an American patriot, you're going to believe in an American way. You're going to believe in an American dream. A house and a white picket fence. It's attainable. But guess what? If it's not attainable, it's because of those black people over there.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can't get your house and white picket fence.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that.
Which is totally not true.
Which is totally not true.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? One comedian always said, the one thing a person with a white person with a nickel hates is a black person with a dime.
Mm-hmm.
and so this thought process gets ingrained and it gets embedded.
Mm-hmm.
And then those on high preach it. And then, they rally the troops behind patriotism. And we're going to take America back. And the South is going to rise again. And all these slogans. And I'm still waiting for someone to say, who are you taking it back from?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Please let us know.
Right.
Let us know.
Right.
Just don't throw it out there. Take the country back.
But see, Corey, that's one of the problems. A coward would never say what's in his heart. He'll only indicate what's in his heart. Trump is a coward. Trump hides behind his money. Trump hides behind the media because that's what he's doing. But let's switch gears a little. Let's talk about this thing that we all know as recent as today, Aaron and Corey. I had a young guy who contacted me, reached out to me. He's in his 30s, maybe 40s. Served a little time. Is now a convicted felon. Has not been in trouble in 20 some odd years. He's married. Okay, he's doing everything that he can do. Every door he goes in, the door is shut. He had his own business, making $100,000+ a year. When the renter from who he was renting from found out what he was making, they went from $500 to $1,000 on rent, which is automatically a problem. So now he's out of work. As a result of being out of work, he's also out of a situation where his wife is wanting to get a divorce because she is faced with all of these pressures. When we look at Jim Crow and segregation itself, which was power and oppression, that same power and oppression that existed then, my brothers, are existing now. So when we look at the workplace, how does black America start to deal and evolve around this workplace, which, like you just said, Corey, and confirmed, that this thing called the American dreams is just a bill of goods being sold to individuals, just for talking points.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Corey.
Absolutely.
One of the things, the whole scenario of the young man that you just mentioned, Barron, I want to remind us of something when it comes to our rights in this country, or the lack thereof. There was never an intention for us to ever exercise the full rights of what's classified as a human being under this Constitution.
Come on, Hop. Come on, man.
So if we are found offending the law, simultaneously being considered black,
Mm-hmm.
what rights we were exercising before, and especially if it's a felony offense.
Mm-hmm.
In the same Constitution, it actually reads that after we had been given what's called freedom, if we were found guilty of a felony, those same conditions that we met in slavery could exist under that offense of the law. It is in the Constitution, under the Black Code. So what I'm saying about what this young man is experiencing, and of course people will say, well, you know, if you've been rehabilitated or if you've served your time, then you have a second chance. But see, that's lip profession. That's lip profession.
Come on, Kyle. Yeah.
Why would this young man have to go to his wits' end only to be turned down at every turn? Because it was not meant for him to succeed as a man, as a human being under this Constitution. It's not an accident. This young man, like every other young man who's, you know, we make mistakes, we find ourselves on the wrong side of the law, and most of the time we're given options. You can either serve your time out, you can do some community service, or if the offense is bad enough, you can plead guilty even though you're innocent for a lesser term if you implicate some other people who were with you. You know, so in other words, your character is compromised any way you look.
Right.
So as a man, you're fighting for basic rights of a human being, only to find out that it's not even set up for you to act as a human being based on the Constitution in the country that you're supposed to be considered a citizen in.
Right.
So
right.
What we're talking about are mechanisms in place, man, that absolutely are there to ensure our lack of success. And I think too many people take it, and if you just listen to the conversations that a lot of people have, or look at what they're really saying, it's that same bootstrap mentality that a lot of people have that say, well, you know, there's nothing wrong with a person working their way out of a situation and pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. But if you look down at your feet and you don't even have the boots to pull the straps up off, and nobody's offering you a pair, and if you even have the money to buy a pair, they deny you access to buy them. You see what I'm saying? So we have to start facing these things head on for what they are. Corey and I, in our conversation a little bit earlier, see, we're always used to having to fit into a place that we're not welcome.
Right. Right. Come on, Corey.
And that's the thing that, you know, the time, we've arrived at that time where there's going to be things whether some like it or not.
Right. So Corey, how do we make that adjustment when the founding fathers, we know what their intent was. We know what the intent is now. One guy asked last night on the live broadcast, well, why am I responsible for 200 years ago? Well, you're not responsible for anything that happened 200 years ago, but you are responsible for the same mentality that existed 200 years ago that exists now. So we are one and the same. What has been is now, what is now has been. Corey Jackson, talk to me.
You know, we're talking about a system, the American criminal justice system, that is rotten to its core.
Go ahead.
That was put in place as a mechanism to continue to keep us in slavery and bondage, as a punishment, like you said, as a punishment. Right, human rights have been stripped away, so that we, in essence, individuals that fall under this category are reduced to slaves again, are reduced to have to live by means of less than human. We go back to the 3/5 of the individual.
Right.
So here we are living within a system that's basically on the ready, set, go to send us back 400 years.
Well, Jack, if we look at sending us back, here's why I don't understand why Black America is not waking up and smelling the coffee, continuously goes with the establishment that has taken us down this path of destruction for the past 200 years and continue to do so at the same point in time. So how do we rally Black America to get involved
Okay.
in the workplace?
So perfect. I'm glad you asked that. There have been mechanisms since slavery that's been in place to keep us off balance,
Mm-hmm.
to keep us from gaining ground, gaining a foothold, and getting on our feet to catch up with what I can't even call our white counterparts, because we've never been counterparts. And I say that to say this. After slavery, we have the Reconstruction. What happened? Jim Crow laws.
Mm-hmm.
So we're free. We're free from the plantation. But what can we do?
Right.
We do. So what? We're reduced to sharecroppers. What happens to the sharecropper? You worked a slave all year long, and when it came time to share the crop, the landowner, well, you pretty much broke even. Once I take back what I'm charging you for rent, and if you remember back during the winter, I gave you 3 hogs and
Come on, Jack.
and a cow, and deduct that from you, and when I let you use the wagon to take some of the yield in, the wheel fell off, and I had to pay for that, and here we are sharecroppers with nothing. So we're not established.
Mm-hmm.
So move on, through this historical timeline that I'm going to take you all through. We're at segregation. So look at segregation. We were all placed in one area, in areas throughout the United States. No jobs, no resources. Left to squander over peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
So then we move on up through, and then we have desegregation. Once again, I talk to my grandmother all the time, and she firmly believes that we were better off with doing segregation. The only thing is, it was preached separate but equal, but we weren't equal. But if it was if it was equal, we probably would have been better off with segregation. So then I'll move on up the timeline, and we have the famous war on drugs. The famous war on drugs. The crack cocaine was intentionally impregnated to the black community as a means to do what? To keep us down. Keep us down. I go back to the 1930s, all the way up to the 1970s, with the Tuskegee experiment, intentionally injecting black men with syphilis to find out what the long-term effects were, because long-term effects of syphilis for black men was different than white men, but they had to find out what they were. So then we have a whole population of black men, generations over, that was intentionally infected with syphilis. They called it the bad blood, if you remember. Bad blood. They coined it off, well, you have bad blood. And all the while, not only are they intentionally infecting the men, but the men are taking it back to the community, the women. So once again,
come on, Jack.
Come on. Back.
Come on.
Something to hold us down. So, we talk about the ghettos, and here we are. No other community can you go into, and there are multiple business establishments, liquor stores, corner stores as they call them, but they're not owned by the people of those communities. Carry out, Chinese food. You know what? You don't have to go to Chinatown to get Chinese food. Just go to a black neighborhood. Got the best Chinese food in the country. Don't go to Chinatown. Go to a black neighborhood. Two or three liquor stores on every corner. What community does that happen in other than ours? The exploitation of us. So once again, like I originally said, all tactics to keep us off balance, gaining a foothold to gain control.
So, Barry and Corey, I want to say this before I lose the point. Along the lines of what you're saying, Corey, what you said earlier, in terms of the method that was used to get us to the point where we are now. This could not have happened to any people without some sort of process of dehumanizing a person. Because you can't just, we couldn't get on the phone and talk 5 days a week, and I could tell you all that you all are slaves. I would have to actually go through a process that especially if you're already free, I can't just make you believe that slavery is going to be something beneficial for you. So it means that you have to be put in such a condition that it's almost better that you're dead and live under those conditions of slavery. And if you think about the times that historically we were given in terms of when our feet first landed, when I say our feet, I'm talking about our ancestors, first landed in America. The date we were given, the year was 1619. But historically, and Corey, you're way closer than I am to the Library of Congress, where it's actually in the archives. It says the first slave ship that actually was recorded that landed in Jamestown, Virginia, in the year 1555. From 1619 to 1555 to 1619 is 64 years. And that 64-year period is where they took men and women from Africa who knew that they were who they were and broke them down into what you and I now know as a chattel slave, who did not know anything about the land which he came from, the language that his native people spoke, nothing in terms of where he or she came from and who they were. So, exactly. My point in saying that is this is how and this is why, in the current day and time, a Hillary Clinton can stand in front of people without really even asking for their support. And we are the they that she doesn't even have to ask that support of. But because of the little bit or what appears to be favor for us, we are willing to give something that is not earned.
Right.
And the cycle would continue. Let's just go ahead and look at the picture. If Secretary Clinton made it to the White House in 6 months, what could we come back, or what could she come back and say?
Come on, Aaron.
Could give back to us for thanking us for our vote.
Right. Man, you are going so deep. We're looking at about 9:08 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Tonight we're joined by Mr. Aaron Hopkins and Mr. Corey Jackson. The title tonight is The State of America for Its Black Citizens. Our conversation, our viewpoint, our solution. The talking points are the political climate, the workplace, society, and our place in it. Corey, Aaron, I know that we want to make sure that we get out because we got about 22 minutes left. If you don't mind, let me go it on and just be graceful and open up the lines. At this point in time, the lines are open. Is there any caller out there who would like to engage in the conversation with Corey Jackson and Mr. Aaron Hopkins? You may do so. Go ahead, caller.
This is Nikki Patrick, Baron Glass. How are you?
How you doing, Doctor? Thanks for calling in. Doc, we know that you have this fiery personality, and you have basically been involved in some of the things that we're talking about. You come from a total different America than what we talk about, although you understand exactly what it is that we feel and understand. Tell us, in your opinion, based on what you've said, add to, take away, just agree or disagree with what's going on at this point in time, Doctor.
Baron, first of all, I'm not American. I'm Scottish.
Okay.
So I come, and I didn't come to America until I was 20. And I come from a real inner-city slum background. Okay, real disadvantage, real slum background, inner-city Scotland. So I've been in America since I'm 20 years old. So I don't have that DNA. I don't have that racist DNA with my history and my bones. And, it's no part of my history. It's no part of my history, Baron. And in all my years in America, and I was an activist all through my life. But one of the things that, just listening to Corey speak, Corey, during Jim Crow, vagrancy was a crime punishable by imprisonment.
Absolutely.
If you didn't have a job, it was called vagrancy. So the conditions were such that jobs weren't allowed. So you could be arrested for vagrancy, and vagrancy put you back on the plantation.
That's right.
And so really with a deep empathy and awareness of what Black history is in America, and not having an American viewpoint, I think a real eye-opener for me was Michelle Alexander's book. And basically, I've raised 4 kids in America. I've raised 4 white kids. Okay, my kids did their deals with marijuana and this growing up. Never once did a SWAT team come into my neighborhood. Never once. One of my kids was arrested one time at Disneyland, with pot paraphernalia. I got the call to come get him. Okay? Never once were my children, who did the normal things that Black kids are doing, ever subject to what's going on in our penal system today. And I think it's even deeper than we really understand. The kid gets arrested, There's no public defender comes in. It doesn't matter if it's marijuana or cocaine. The public defender comes in. First of all, the kid usually, because of the conditions, the impoverished conditions in Black neighborhoods, DA comes in. The kid doesn't have bail money, so he's sitting there. The DA walks in and says, "Let me plead you." Whether the kid did it, didn't do it is irrelevant. Kid wants to go home.
That's right.
Okay? So right away, the kid pleads. He's a felon. Okay? Now he's probably put on some kind of probation. Every time he goes into the probation officer, there's some kind of fee that he's got to pay. Can't get a job because he's a felon. Okay? Now he's usually sent back for violation of probation because he can't pay the fees. Okay? It starts that cycle. If it's a man with a family, with children, Clinton enforced it, that his wife and children, if you have any association with a criminal and she's in any kind of public assisted housing, she loses her housing. I mean, it's criminal. It's criminal. Our system is criminal. The laws are punitive. I really, Corey, I absolutely agree with you in your analysis of the historical. Since slavery, since the first ship came in 1565, you have never in this country ever enjoyed any equality. I think there's been systems in place throughout your history. I mean, I'm just going to say it. I mean, God damn it, no uppity nigger is going to get better than us. It's really that simple. It's, I talk with white people all the time, and they say, well, I'm not racist. I got a couple of black friends. That's what there's this denial of the history of what has happened to the blacks in America. Today, I think that Trump has allowed all the racists to come out from under the rock. It's in the DNA. It's in the DNA. It's so pervasive. It's in every facet, almost every white person that you meet. And I'm Baron, you know how I feel. I mean, I just, it's horrendous, but it exists.
So, Dr. Bedrick, let me ask you this, because we know the positions not only from what we are told, but what we have experienced, what people like us has experienced. When you see the conversations that are going on, like on social media, Facebook, what we're talking about, and I think Aaron and Corey would co-sign this, is that we're not calling, nor are we saying that everybody that looks opposite of is a racist. That's not what we're saying. People misunderstand it. Not saying that you're saying it either. However, what we're trying to do is address these evils that have existed in the past so we can move forward. Because if I am in a relationship and I cannot address what is going on now, it is impossible for me to move forward to tomorrow or the next day. So that relationship that I'm talking about, in that personal relationship, it exists outside or inside with regards to the relationship in this country. It makes absolutely no sense in 2016 that the same struggles that my 85-year-old mother had to go through, that her son and her grandkids are now having to deal with, just in a different fashion. Again, Donald Trump is on TV right now talking as crazy can be. But he's got a following just like Jim Jones, Adolf Hitler, and all these other people. I cannot understand why people can't see through all of the dust, and when the smoke clear and the dust settle, he's going to set us on a path of destruction. Corey, Aaron, Doc, how do you feel about that?
Well, Aaron, Brian, this is the fact of the matter right here. I'm going to break it down. Control. In any faction, nobody wants to lose control.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about the founding fathers, and as the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, they wrote the Constitution so that them and those that look like them and those that will come after them will always be in a position of control and leadership from the top to the bottom. Right now, the founding fathers are flipping in the grave that blacks are in the position, the little position that we are right now, because it was never supposed to happen. So here we have a race of people that has basically controlled the narrative since the beginning. Do you think that that control is going to be easily given up? Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, can I interject a point here?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's so true. But I think today, and I think the media has played a huge part in it, and I think Clinton probably started it with her super predator. White people are afraid of black people.
You know what, Doc? A friend of mine the other day told me the same thing. A white lady said, "Baron, you know what? About 75% or more of white people won't say it, but they are actually afraid of blacks." You are exactly right. Go ahead, Doctor.
And I got to tell you, from a real psychological place, I'll tell you where I think it comes from. I think deep, they know what they've done. Okay, they know what they've done. They look at what white person, I don't care if it's a man, woman, or what, looks at a black guy walking down the street, okay, and punches a purse closer, okay, she's afraid. She's afraid, okay? And I really honestly believe, from a deep psychological place, is that somewhere the black man's going to stand up and say, hey, you guys, you're accountable.
Yes,
and I
right.
think that, you know, Corey, if you look at the punishment, if you look at the vile, through the history of the black man, black women are not talking about that right now, but what was done to a black man to dehumanize him? He was whipped,
Lord, have mercy.
He was burned. Okay, those are not the actions of someone that is not afraid.
That's right.
Okay? I mean, I could, you know, Doc, I'm not going to get that as raw as I can get, you know it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, get off, because what we're talking about
I honestly think when, you know, the black body is a powerful body.
That's right.
Black man's body is a powerful body.
That's why our genitals, that's why the genitals were mutilated, because that's where the black life comes from.
Absolutely.
From the genitals.
Now, you can... When they brought over the first slaves are these powerful African men, okay, who now come into these deep Christian, when I say Christian, the idea that sex was wrong, that, you know, they had the women covered up, all of these things, and you bring in this powerful race of people, okay, all right, and you bring in this physically powerful race of people. I'm telling you, something happened way back then, way back then, that body had to be broken. And I think Ta-Nehisi Coates has a great book called Between the World and Me, and he talks about the black body in that sense. And really, I mean, and he says that racism is visceral. You know, it's an attack on the body. If you really think about it, it's an attack on your body, an attack on your person. Why do the cops, when they get a young black man, have to beat him senseless?
It's an attack on the body. It's an attack on the body, just like you said. And the fear that you're talking about, I coined it. It's called guilt-based fear. The fear that you have,
Corey, I'm with you. And the fear and the absolute fear that, you know what, and keep you divided, keep you in the ghettos, keep you down there, keep you everything. You'll never rise up and take what's rightfully yours. I mean, there's some kind of, if you know, I was married to a Jewish guy for all my years, and he used to say that if you scratched a guy, that's what he called a white person, if you scratched a guy deep enough, he said you'd find an anti-Semite. If you scratch an American deep enough, you'll find a racist.
Oh, absolutely. Because you said, I mean, let's put it like this: in an animal world, you have let's say you have a bird dog, and the way you get a stronger bloodline is you breed the best female and male bird dogs, so that lineage becomes strong, and they're going to hunt, and it's going to be ingrained. Well, you take racism, and you take years and years and years, and centuries of racism that's been passed on. Guess what happens? It becomes ingrained in part of the DNA. Therefore, my strong belief is that the human being cannot cause racism. It can't. From a spiritual sense, and this is where we're going, this is where we take this conversation. The world, Mother Earth, the God, will solve racism. Because the earth must return to which force it was in its original state. And right now, the earth, the ecosystem of the earth is returning to its natural state. There, you know,
the gray line aren't even call about groaning with the pangs of pregnancy, you know?
Exactly. Right. Wives aren't even reproducing at the rate that they're dying.
You know, Corey, and Dr. Bridget, I want to say something along the lines of what you mentioned, and Corey, you as well. And I'm going to, this will be my last statement. I know we're running out of time.
Hey, Aaron, let me tell you, what I've just done, I've alerted the administrative assistant. We've extended it for another 15 minutes, so we still have about 30 minutes left. So go ahead, because I think Dr. Barrick, I believe Dr. Broder is going to join. I just messaged her, so we're going to see. But the conversation is going so well. They tell you in the church, when the spirit is hot, don't put it out. Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm glad, first of all, that Dr. Bridget is on. I've seen some of her comments.
I'm not a doctor.
Recently.
That's what Baron calls me.
Yeah, that's what I call her.
Well, we're gonna leave it at that. But
Thank you.
I've seen some of your comments, and I just want to say two things. First of all, the point you made about what white people actually in their psyche, what they see when they see a black, and I'm not just going to say a black man. That's specific, but a black person in general. It's one thing when you fear something that you can actually avert the outcome from. In other words, if I go and put gasoline in my car right now and I spill some gasoline, and I know the person drives up and they're smoking a cigarette, I know what the outcome could be. But if I don't have the will to let that person know, hey, don't you put your cigarette out, I spilled some gas, then I'm guilty of allowing something that I know what the outcome would be. So if I know that my history is basically written in blood and my hands are bloody based on my treatment or mistreatment of the entire people, then I have to know that if the shoe was on the other foot, I would know what to expect. The same way I would want to fight to the death to get myself and my family and my loved ones out of that condition, I would expect that the person that is under that same tyranny would do the same. So we're not talking about a fear that is unjustified or even unwarranted.
No, really, I've said it forever. If I were black, I'd be so militant. I mean, it's I was militant against my own conditions. I would be so militant. So yeah, I mean,
that's simply a means of survival.
Right.
I think it was you, Corey, that brought the problem. Why does the black community in mass, kind of look at Hillary Clinton and accept some little bone that if she's ever elected 6 months later, she'll say, "Oops, sorry." I mean, it's an amazing phenomenon to me. But then when you really look at it's kind of like having a child. When you have a child, if you tell the child from the day the child is born, if you tell the child is worthless, okay, the child begins to believe it's nothing other than worthless. If you have a child and you treat the child with love and you uplift your child and you build up your child, and the child has that interior. And I think that a lot of the acquiescence of the black community is deeply embedded in that. Baron, I think you made a comment to me on one of the threads where after desegregation, you said that black folks were just thought they'd be happy they could ride in the front of the bus and drink from the fountain.
Mm-hmm. Doc, one of the things that my wife and I incorporated or did, we took our children out of school because it started early as childhood. The indoctrination. And I saw this, and we immediately, my kids are young, and I have a lot of some of my kids have never seen the inside of a classroom, a public school classroom, because my wife and myself, we possess the knowledge, skill, and ability to educate our children to the highest extent in the manner and the methods that we see fit. And they are extremely, extremely intelligent, extremely. But in a public school
and I would imagine extremely whole as well.
Whole as whole can be.
Corey, but I'm not sure if we missed it. I believe Aaron probably caught this. Now, Nikki said that, and as well as another friend, indicated that white people are afraid of the black male. So if we take that same comment, and the reason why I'm bringing this up because Dr. Broder's out there listening. I want to see if we can tie this in. Is that why we now have all of this police brutality against young African-American black males?
Absolutely.
So if that be the case, then we have no chance, even if we sit down at the table of love, because that preconception is already there. So because I drive a white S600 Mercedes-Benz, or if I drive a black Porsche, if I drive a black BMW, I'm automatically excluded from the rights of everybody else because that preconception of fear is already there. So I stand a chance of getting the hell beat out of me.
Absolutely, Baron. Absolutely. And maybe even more of a chance. Maybe even more of a chance than a black boy driving a beater.
Exactly.
Because
the assumption would also come in there that maybe you stole it.
Exactly my point.
Or if not stole it, you got it by some unethical means.
Because quite simply, you're not supposed to have it.
There you go. That's the root of it.
Exactly, Aaron. You caught on to it.
You're supposed to have it.
Yeah. it doesn't matter how you acquire it. It's the fact that you're not supposed to have it. So,
you're not supposed to have. That's the root of it. You're not supposed to have it.
And you're not supposed to have it because the forefathers wrote it that way.
Well,
so you were not ever supposed to have it.
Absolutely, Corey. But I want to say this as well, because I can definitely see and feel now that there's a consciousness that is actually I'm going to say it's been present for the longest. It's been lying a little bit dormant. But one of the things that fear does for those who are aware is it actually starts a preparation. And if you think about, Barry, you just mentioned the police brutality, or the elevation of it. Now, I'm going to tell you what I see, and you all can agree or disagree. But in terms of if you see people are awakening, and you desire for them to stay in the condition where they're either mentally dead or asleep, if you know your history has shown that you have been successful in keeping those who potentially would awaken from, you give such a devastating picture of the consequence of your awakening in terms of, and I think she mentioned it as well, and Corey just mentioned it. See, none of us really can relate to what it means to see a man castrated.
Right.
We can look at pictures. We can see it in a movie. But if we were actually there, it would have a totally different effect and impact on our brain. Because we're talking about three men that started this conversation. All of us, we have children. You can't even fathom seeing. Let's just say it's your father. The last time you see him alive, the way you saw his total manhood taken from him. Publicly, where everybody saw this, and the ones that had any thought in their mind that they were going to try to change their condition, that event, it stifled that thought. So it took, and Corey, you mentioned it earlier, it took something to the effect of a Nat Turner uprising for those who were on the other side of that view to say, you know what, this is absolutely why we can't allow any of them to ever rise up.
And that's what we need now. We need a intellectual Nat Turner uprising.
Absolutely.
You know, Baron, I've been revisiting Malcolm X, and I don't think I ever saw a man more self-possessed and unafraid, and who absolutely in total charge of himself and himself than that man.
I agree.
And I mean, I think there's such a deep grassroots, a deep level that the black community needs to. I mean, it won't. You know, there's a line. I can't even remember who said it, but the oppressor will never hand the oppressed freedom. The oppressed has to take it. You know? And I think, hey, you can hope and pray, and you can hope for some consciousness and some enlightenment in the white community, and some of us will get it, and most won't. But it's never going to be given. It's never going to be given.
Right.
It needs to be taken.
It has to be taken. It has to be. That's the only way it's going to happen.
I think it's, and what you've done with your children and taking them out of school and instilling in them this wholeness and this sense of themselves and their own dignity as human beings and children. I mean, that's where it needs to start, because it will not be given.
Right.
Absolutely
right. Baron, in your
lifetime or mine,
you know, it's you know, I think we all somehow in whatever way our belief system is spiritual, it's God, and end times, and the world will balance itself out. But man, the suffering untold millions is and it's a daily suffering is good. You know, how many more? How many more? I mean, I think one of the worst. Sally.
Go ahead, Vanessa. This is Vanessa from.
No, Dr.
No, go ahead and finish. I'm waiting till she finishes.
Okay. Was that Dr. Broad or was that Vanessa?
I think that. No, let Vanessa talk. I've had enough of the floor.
No.
Vanessa, I'm listening.
Okay, because we got about 11 minutes. Go ahead, Vanessa.
No, I was just gonna ask the two gentlemen that you have on tonight.
Uh-huh.
I didn't come in on the beginning.
Okay.
But a lot of what really irks me a lot of the time is I had a 6-hour conversation with a relative the other night that I didn't get any sleep, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about. She goes to my Facebook page.
Uh-huh.
She's afraid to click the like button on a lot of the stuff that I talk about.
Uh-huh. Come on, Vanessa.
And she was telling how
I said, come on. I'm agreeing with you.
She told me, she said that you need to focus on all lives matter. She said, you always talking about just black people, and people are going to feel like you're a revolutionary, and if you keep doing this and doing that, and she said, I want to comment on your post, but I can't do it because I do have white friends, and I don't want to offend my white friends, and I told her, I tried to be nice about it. I said, look, if your white friends were really your friends, they wouldn't care if you hit my like button.
That's right.
Because the thing is, they need to understand. When you say about all lives matter, and then she goes on, she bashes black people, she bashes the kids that wear the sagging pants, and everything to her is black people's fault.
That's the direct result of the Willie Lynch.
Absolutely. That's what I tried to. I said, look, you see my post, Baron, and I think the other lady, she may have read a couple.
Vanessa, I've seen yours, yep.
Yeah, because I see yours, and people just don't. A lot of blacks just don't understand. Like the sheriff, the one that the Fox News always gets to come on there and drive black people crazy. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
It's somebody.
That's James Baldwin made a quote that said, "The measure of my success in America is how white I become."
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And Vanessa, what many people fail to understand.
And I think it's
go ahead, Sally. I mean, go ahead, Dr. Broder.
No. I was just saying that. I mean, it's a profound statement, and it's what happens to, I think, a lot of black youth who were able to maybe get into mainstream jobs and this type of thing. I mean, I'm appalled. I just got to say it, and I got to say it for the record. I'm appalled that are really successful actors, musicians, which dominate the industry, don't come back into the communities. Because the uplifting of one is the uplifting of all.
Yeah.
And I just want to say I have lost lots of white friends and gained a lot of black friends by my post, Vanessa. And I don't give a shit.
Hey, Barron.
Uh-huh.
Hey, real quick, man, because Dr. Bedrick said something a while ago, and I have to, with all due respect to her, I don't want to disagree with her. I want to agree with her, but I want to actually add to what she said when she mentioned she revisited Malcolm X. And the reason I want to say something about that is many people don't know, well, I don't want to say many people do know.
Uh-huh.
But Malcolm X had a teacher named Elijah Muhammad.
Uh-huh.
Malcolm was one of his successful students. There was also Muhammad Ali. There was also Muhammad Ali. Malcolm and his timing was the one that got more of the spotlight and attention. And so the Malcolm X that we know now is not the Malcolm X that everybody was in love with, that they're in love with now.
Uh-huh.
That we have somewhat of his history and story about. And the reason I say that, because we got to really look at this from this standpoint. There was a reason why Malcolm was murdered, and because he was not loved when he was Malcolm X. The same way that Dr. Martin Luther King is loved now. He's not loved. I'm talking about white America. I'm not talking about black America.
Wait,
he was not loved.
First off, to say no.
He was not loved in the way that America expresses love for him now that he's no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm saying that to say, just as I was trying to paint the picture of placing that fear back in black America for, if you think you're going to have this type of uprising, this is what we intend to do. So anytime strong leadership presents itself in our community, you see the resistance. It starts off as resistance with slander. This is because Malcolm and his teacher and the Nation of Islam as a whole was labeled as a hate group, terrorist organization, no different than what we see today.
Right.
People who are trying to awaken.
Hey, Aaron. Let me be just a little fair, because we got about 5 minutes left. I know we got Vanessa on the line, we got Corey, we got Nikki, and we got you, and there's some others out there on the line. So let me do it this way. Corey, I'm going to start with you, and give us a 30 to 45 second closing commentary on what you'd like to see from this point on, and we'll rejoin this particular show when you guys have the time, because I think we need to go a little bit deeper, and we need to make sure that everybody understands that there's a lot of work for everybody to do. Mr. Corey Jackson, Baltimore, Maryland. Go ahead.
I would like to see an intellectual, nocturnal revolution.
Okay, short, sweet, and simple. Okay, Nikki.
I think I would like to see a real grassroots community level. Communities really with care mothers, just in their whatever it's so vast, but whatever it takes, it needs to start in the community. Resources need to be poured into the. Hey, you know what, Hillary Clinton? If you get out there, you want reparations, put them in the black communities. Need jobs, need decent living conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Need those. That's what I would like to see.
Okay.
But I'd love to see the black take it into his own hands.
Okay, Vanessa.
I would like to see that same net uprising that he's talking about, intellectually, of course, and surprisingly.
Okay, Aaron Hopkins.
Well, I'm going to say this, kind of not to summarize everybody with what has already been said, but one of the things that I don't think we really understand is that there's a state of emergency in terms of we don't have a lot of time to correct some of these issues before the boiling. We've already reached the boiling point. Because I can almost guarantee 2016 will not be able to withstand the kind of outright killing of innocent youth that we have seen this past year in 2015. I can almost guarantee this. And Barron, I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned, I was kind of joking, but I really wasn't. I said that it may take for a Donald Trump to actually make it all the way to the White House for people to really understand what kind of what we had in terms of President Obama, who we probably would never see again. And not just because he was the first black person in the White House. It was the way he handled politics in terms of he was not necessarily a politician. He just did more practical things, which was against the thinking of those traditional politicians. So, and the proof of that is in a statement like Donald Trump will make, "Let's make America great again."
Well, I'll tell you, we've been listening to Mr. Aaron Hopkins, Vanessa Ghazi, Corey Jackson, Nikki Bedrick, and we have other listeners and callers that are out there. I know Dr. Sally Broder out there from California is listening in. Dr. Broder, thanks for listening in. I hope that I'm able to get you and Nikki back on along with Corey, Aaron, and Vanessa, and we'll schedule this thing rather than 1 hour. We'll go for the full 2.5, even if we have to go 3 hours. We've been listening tonight to the State of of America for its black citizens, our conversation, our viewpoint, our solution. The talking points will be the political climate, the workplace, society, and our place in it. We're talking the final Thursday night, February the 25th of 2016, ending Black History Month. We hope that somebody took away something that they did not have before they listened to the show. You've been listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on WMAD 24-hour global radio. And just remember, tell a neighbor, tell a friend. You can listen to us on TuneIn, iTunes, Spreaker.com, Blog Talk Radio, and YouTube. And all you have to do is search for the Smoking Glass Hour. You can also catch us live video on Blab. And I love to get you guys on Blab along with Periscope. And we can actually have a long, engaging conversation where anybody, just like on the radio, can come on and engage and join in the conversation. We do those every opportunity we have, once every other night, or whatever the case may be. So thanks for listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, and I'm going to say good night to Nikki, Corey, Aaron, Vanessa, and all of those other callers that are out there on the line who have so graciously listened to the conversation tonight. Good night, and may the good Lord be with you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Good night.